Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another glorious episode of Brad's Bourbon Reviews, the podcast. I'm Brad Hughes, and today I am here still. I feel like I've been here a month. I'm still here in Mount Pleasant, North Carolina, at Southern Grace Distilleries with Sebastian Correa.
Yeah.
Yes, I said it right. I practiced like 9 times before we started the show. I'm terrible with names. What's going on, man?
Not too much.
You might want to pull that a little closer. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Well, just finish up another week here at Southern Grace.
Nice.
Filling barrels.
I saw there's one missing over here.
Not for long. No, we're in desperate need of a new barrel house, so any little space that opens up here is quickly
filled?
Yeah.
That's great. All right, so I kind of wanted to, the reason I wanted to do this with you is because I think what you do is like just infinitely fascinating, and I don't know how you get to do what you do. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. We'll talk about the brand and that kind of stuff too, but first, I want to talk about you. How did you get into this? How does one become a master distiller?
Yeah, I don't think there's really any one path, but for me at least, when I was in college, I majored in fermentation science, which is pretty much a chemistry and biology degree, with the focus of mainly making alcoholic beverages.
Interesting.
But of course, there's a lot of other uses, things you can do, pharmaceuticals, food, other food products, things like that.
That was my question I was going to ask. If it's not alcohol, what do you use it for?
Yeah, you end up. I know some people have done the pharmaceutical route. Other cheese making is something else that uses that.
Cheese making?
Yeah, making cheese. It's actually when you're under 21 in that program. One of the things, obviously you're not allowed to make booze.
Oh, you can't even make it if you're 21?
If you're under 21, you can't.
Weird.
So we always start, making sourdough is usually the easiest thing to start. Kombucha, cheese, anything that has to do with microbes, yeast.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. I was at a bourbon drop this past week, and somebody who watches the videos and the pod, I'm assuming listens to the podcast, named Wesley. He is in the fermentation program at... forgive me, Wesley. I think he said App State.
Yeah.
Does App State have one? Oh, no kidding.
Yep, I got it at Appalachian State.
Okay, I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what he told me where he was at. And he was saying that they do like these cool little fermentation projects, and I thought it was super, super interesting. So, Wesley, this podcast is for you, man. Listen up. Listen up.
But yeah, so I started there. I learned making beer, and I used to make beer, done wine, and make wine, still make wine every once in a while. And right before I was graduating, obviously needed a job, already had bills coming in. Adulthood hits you fast.
Yeah, dude.
So I was like,
second year out of college, you're like, okay, when are you going to start paying me back?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, well, I need a job. I'd always thought, I didn't really have a plan, but I always thought I'd go into making wine. There's some family history in making wine.
What's the history?
My parents are from a small country in South America called Uruguay.
Okay.
Come from Spanish and Italian descent. My grandpa made wine. Great-grandpa made wine. So
cool.
And, my uncle still makes wine today. So we, just mostly small, sort of, you make a bunch, share it with your neighbors, family. That
was my next question. Was it like, did they own like a winery, or was it just
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of, but... So, and still today, even though I make bourbon, I enjoy wine. So I thought I'd go into making wine, but not a lot of winemaking in May. Usually your grapes are still growing. You're kind of just getting ready for your busy season. So looking for job openings, Southern Grace had an opening for an assistant distiller. And I figured worst case scenario, I'd work there a couple months, jump ship whenever I could find a winemaking job and, go on from there. But, that was in 2016.
Wow.
And
okay.
Still here. So,
man. So you weren't? Who was the master distiller when you got here?
Thomas Thacker was.
Oh, he was master distiller.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So was that? That was another question I had. Like I was on the way over here. I was like, what do I want to ask you? Kind of want to have a little bit of a plan. But so was that mash bill, the 8812? Was that his thing, or is that something that you guys like?
No, that's been the mash bill ever since I came here.
Interesting.
From what he has told me, that is a take on a mash bill that he has seen cooked and distilled, and kind of how he learned how to make whiskey. It's really traditional, moonshine corn whiskey recipe. just corn and barley. So that was it, and he thought it would make a really good bourbon, and I agreed. I was like, there's no need to change anything.
Interesting.
Let's, it's already got a lot of good characteristics as a distillate, so I think it'd do really well in a barrel. So we went with it, and we're still using that recipe today.
That's awesome. So what does rye do that makes it beneficial to like put that in, or wheated bourbon? Like what is the difference? I know the difference is obviously rye and wheat, but like what does it do to the characteristic of the whiskey, not necessarily, once it's in a barrel?
All it is that those are just essentially add flavor to it.
Okay.
Because mostly you're not using a malted rye or malted wheat. You're just adding it as just raw grain, and so it's just giving you flavor at that point. Most of us think rye gives you sort of those spicy notes.
Yeah.
Wheat is more a little sweeter, a little
softer.
Yeah, softer.
A little cherry.
Yeah, a little creamy mouthfeel. So that's really what all that does. Those grains are just add different flavors to it and give you a sort of a different flavor profile for your finished product.
I always kind of figured, and this is just a guess, that corn was used because it's just so cheap.
It definitely helps that it's cheap.
Yeah.
But no, the history of it is that obviously corn was just one of the main crops in the Americas, and it was grown. It's so easily grown throughout the East Coast, especially colonial times. Everything, that's what most people grew. And at least the history that I've always been taught and learned and read about is it was farmers would make their corn, and then to take it to market, it made more sense for them to ferment it, distill it into their version of whiskey back then.
So crazy.
Because you could fit it, and then they would put them in barrels because barrels rolled and it was easier to transport a liquid that way.
That's why barrels.
Yep.
Interesting.
Put it in, horse and buggy and take it to market. And corn is a pretty important crop still today to the U.S., the economy.
Sure.
So
it's subsidized by the U.S. government, right?
It is. Yeah. So it just made sense for bourbon, America's sort of spirit, to be made out of mostly corn.
That's so cool. That's awesome. So you go to App State, you do the fermentation program. When does it click for you? Is it just because you saw the opening at Southern Grace? You're like, I want to do whiskey, or was that something like kind of in the back of your head? I know you said you kind of were thinking more wine, but did you always like whiskey, or?
Yeah, no, I'd always been a fan of whiskey. As a young 20-something-year-old, I wasn't drinking, the best whiskeys.
Jim Beam, white label, black
just
label,
whatever I could afford. But yeah, I always enjoyed whiskey. I like distilling, just the art of it. The science behind it. I've never really into making beer as a lifelong thing, so I knew that was out the window. So,
are you not a beer drinker?
I am a beer drinker occasionally. It's just, at least back then, I thought the market was so saturated.
Oh, dude, I can't believe how many breweries are in Charlotte.
Yeah,
I don't even. Who's drinking all this shit?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
everywhere you go in downtown now, it's like a brewery attached to a restaurant. It's insane.
It is, and I mean the brewery scene sort of played, I think, a good part for the craft distilling scene.
Sure.
The craft breweries sort of got people into thinking more of, let's try something local, something smaller, where it tastes good compared to, not that your Miller Lights, your Bud Lights taste bad. Some people just like that, and that's fine.
Sure.
But so I think that sort of paved the way for people to start to try and find out where these craft distilleries are and give them a shot.
Interesting.
And I mean, and the craft brewery scene also helped, the small towns.
For sure.
We're not the brewery. We're sort of the craft distillery, but I always like to say we got here right before Mount Pleasant started to really blow up and develop into what it is now. And
sure.
I'm sure we played a part in that.
I know you did for a fact, because I was doing some research on the distillery and, more the prison before the distillery. And I remember reading an article that they were I forget who it was. They were interviewing somebody, and they were like, what do you think is going to happen to Mount Pleasant now that the prison is gone? And they're like, the Whataburger is going to close because people would visit their family and eat there. And I just thought that was so funny because, it's still there.
It's still there, yeah.
The downtown's thriving now.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think you guys are directly responsible for that.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely helped, and there's, been a group of people investing in the downtown and that's helped us, and is the same ways that we've helped the town.
That's
so.
awesome, man. So you get here, they have the established mash bill. What does your day-to-day look like?
Depends on the day. And I always like to say I try to plan my days out, and that plan quickly goes out the window. So currently,
you got idiots coming to interview you in the middle of your day?
Oh no, this is actually a good change in the schedule.
Good. Good.
So let's say average day, I'll come in. If I'm not running the stills, then we have Marty, who's our other distiller. He's running the stills. And if he's running the stills, he's usually here before me because he likes to get here at 5 a.m. I like to sleep. So, but usually I check up on the run, how it's doing. If there's anything coming out, I'll taste it to make sure everything's going all right. Morning is probably filled with a lot of paperwork. You'd be surprised how much paperwork this job has. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Just regulations.
I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, they got to get done. So, and I like to do it while I drink my coffee in the morning. Do that. Once I'm never done with the paperwork, once I'm tired of it, then I'll usually go. If there's barrels to fill, I'll start figuring out, getting our hearts together, figuring out, how much I need, how much water, how many barrels can I fill. Get those done. That's usually could take a couple hours depending on, what we're doing and how many other people are working around me. After barrel filling, then it's trying to look at current inventory, whether that's here on the property, state warehouse, other distributors, kind of see what they're low on, what they're going to need, plan out bottling.
Man.
Yeah, so
you're
bottling.
like a one-man show.
It's, and I have a lot of help here if I need it. It's a good thing. But yeah, there's a lot to it, and just making the whiskey. It's sort of planning what to do with it because, you can see we got 700 barrels in here.
Crazy.
And they got to get into bottles at some point. So try to figure that out, plan out bottling for the week.
So since this is just an audio podcast, we are in the barrel house for people. I've done videos. You've seen that. If you listen to this, I'm assuming you've seen the videos that I've done here. We're in the barrel house. Is there any rhyme or reason to how these are laid out in the barrel house, or is it just kind of? I know I asked you earlier this week. Do you have like a spreadsheet, or do you just remember where everything is?
Yeah.
Is there a rhyme or reason, or is it just like there's empty space, fill it?
At the beginning, there was some sort of reasoning behind it. We'd start on the opposite side of this building, the east side, or we call it Cell Block East because prison. But we'd start over there, and so the oldest barrels would be there, and we'd fill that side out, and then start on the west side here where we're on. But as we ran out of room, it quickly became all right, where is there room to put these barrels? That's where it'll be. I do keep a spreadsheet because there's no way I could remember where barrels
definitely
are.
Not. No
I
way.
can give you a general idea of if you were to tell me or ask me, barrels that were filled in 2022 or 2020. I can give you a general vicinity of it off the top of my head, just because I'm in here so much with these barrels. But no, there's no. I don't think there'd be any way anyone can remember.
No,
where they
definitely
all are.
not. Definitely not. So you get here. They're doing. So what was your job when you first got here? What was your
when I first got here?
Into the fray.
Funny enough, the first day I started, Thomas, we met me at the distillery, and we weren't even at the prison at that point. We were still, before here, we rented a small room in an old mill.
No way. I didn't know that.
Outside of downtown Concord.
Shut up.
Yeah, we had 2,200 square feet. No room for barrels, so we only made our corn whiskey, our Sundog 130. Yep.
How have I never heard this before?
Well, we like to forget about those days. I'll tell you one thing. No. It was a small little room, no ventilation, nothing.
Jesus.
For some reason, we kept the thermometer up in there, and like I said, one small room, 2,200 square feet. We distilled, we fermented, we bottled. We did everything in that one room.
What? How long did that happen?
The company started there, so 2014 till 2016.
Whoa.
And that thermometer, Friday evening, you'd look at it and say 105 degrees.
Whoa.
Monday morning, after nothing happened for a weekend, it'd be 98.
Dude, that's crazy.
So, but the first day I got there, Thomas is saying that him and some of the other people that worked here before, like they had a stuck fermentation. Stug fermentation just means they've gotten their mash done, they pitched the yeast, and it started fermenting and then just stopped.
What makes it do that?
Could be a ton of different things. Not enough yeast, too hot, the pH levels in your mash, not enough nutrients for the yeast. I walked in sort of blind, not knowing what to expect, but it was a stug fermentation. Couldn't figure it out. Couldn't get it going again, so we had to dump that batch.
Wow.
And while we were dumping that batch, the big tote that was sitting in tipped over, and both me and Thomas ended up in like knee deep in like just corn and barley and just liquid.
Oh no!
And he pretty much said if I didn't show up the next day, he'd understand. But
oh wow!
Yeah, we spent a couple hours cleaning that up.
Jesus.
But yeah, back then, I mean, we were a really small operation. It was pretty much I was the one-man show. Like you said, I made the mash, I distilled, set up everything for bottling, and we just, we were producing a lot less then because we weren't filling barrels, so it was pretty much 1 week we'll spend running the stills. The next week we'll spend it, making mash, and we'd only bottle whenever we needed to send a shipment out.
Interesting. So when you make them, so I want people to. I feel like there's a lot of. It's hard to find a lot of good information on like the process.
Yeah.
Can you walk through like the process of like from getting the grain to going into the barrel?
Yeah. So you start off with your corn. In order, you want the starches from inside the corn because you turn the starches into sugar. Mm-hmm. So in order to do that, first you have to cook the corn. It's generally high heat. We do it around 200 degrees, about 45 minutes. Just pretty much let it sit in there at that hot temperature. You stir it around every once in a while, but
how does it not pop?
Well, it's dried and cracked already.
Gotcha.
So it's you're just cooking the corn, and what that does, it sort of breaks the corn down a little bit and lets you get inside the corn, which is where the starch is pretty much held. After that, you cool down your water temperature to about 145 to 147 degrees. That's when we add our barley. And the reason you want to cool down your water to that temperature is because inside the main reason you use barley in any mash bill isn't for any flavor. Barley doesn't really give much flavor, but it's actually the enzymes inside the barley, particularly one called amylase. And what that does, it actually breaks down the starch and converts that into sugar.
Interesting.
And it has to be at a certain temperature. It's pretty finicky.
So this is ignorance on my part 100%, but I like to ask these kind of questions because I like to know the process. What's the benefit of using barley instead of just like isolating that enzyme? Or is that something you can't do?
No, you definitely can. If we were doing 100% corn mash bill, we'd have to use an enzyme.
Okay.
And we still, even though we use barley, we will throw in a little bit of extra enzyme in there just to make sure we get as much of that starch out as possible.
Gotcha. Okay.
And convert it. But you definitely can just use an enzyme. You're just missing the barley and I said barley doesn't give any flavor, but there is a thing. If you've ever had just 100% corn, just corn whiskey, like not aged or anything, it tends to be a little harsh.
Really?
It's just a little acidic, and I always that barley kind of tames that down a little bit. So it does soften it up a little bit, but the main reason is the enzymes inside the barley.
Gotcha.
Once you add that barley in, our mash at this point pretty much sits there for 90 minutes, and that's just to allow the conversion of the starch into the sugar.
Okay.
After that, it's pretty close to being done. You add any other liquid you need to add. Backset, we're sour mash, so we use what's left over from our previous still run in our new one. Stir that all up, add the yeast, and that's when fermentation begins.
That's awesome. So then you take it from there to the still? Is that where that happens next?
For us, we filter out all the grain out of the liquid mash.
Okay.
So we use pot stills, just standard old pot stills. I mean, they're as old school as you can get.
Yeah, I like it. It looks cool back there.
It is a very cool look. But we don't put the grain in there because then you have a chance of scorching the grain.
Okay.
And that'll give you off flavors that you just will never get rid of. So
was pot still an intentional choice, or was it just kind of like what you guys had?
It's what we had, and honestly, to me, I think a pot still gives you a lot more flavor in your, at least in your distillate. It's the old school traditional way of doing it.
Are column stills like more efficient? Is that why a lot of big distilleries use them?
Yeah, they're more efficient, and they also allow you can really be precise with what proof points you pull out.
Okay.
You can go, depending on what still you have at that point, you can have it set up so it would only pull stuff off at 155 proof if you wanted to.
Really? Interesting.
And it separates out all the parts more efficiently, but it does that by pretty much doing multiple distillations in one all at the same time. So you're stripping out a lot of other compounds that give you flavor. That's why I think one of the main reasons why legally bourbon, your hearts can't be distilled higher than 160 proof is because after that you're pulling off more and more alcohol and less of all the flavor compounds that you get out
Interesting.
of it.
Okay.
So the pot still allows for some sort of it's called reflux, sort of the distillation of your mash. It condenses back into the pots, continually heat up. It allows for some of that, but not as much as a column still would.
Okay. Cool. So then so I always hear people talk about the stripping runs.
Yeah.
What is that exactly? I know a little bit. I'm kind of being a little ambiguous just to be like, what is that? Like I'm setting you up for a home run here.
No. So a stripping run, you traditionally do that with a mash. You would just heat it up in a pot still, and the vapor goes straight from the pot directly into a condenser. What you're doing is you're just stripping the alcohol out of it, as much of the alcohol as possible. So, for instance, if you started off with mash, it's about 11.5%, 12%. You'd probably end up with, if you did a stripping run, you'd end up with 100, 120 proof.
That's so crazy.
That
doesn't make sense to my brain.
Yeah, well, it's...
I'm not smart. That's why.
But our system, we use 2 thump kegs.
Okay. Is that where it's like one into one and then out into the other one? Okay.
Yeah, so...
I thought that's what I remember you saying that was.
We have the 2 thump kegs. So we have a pot. The vapor goes into the first thump keg where it condenses, it gets heated back up. Just essentially distills itself again, goes into the second thumb keg, same process. So we're doing essentially a triple distillation.
Interesting. Okay.
But because we use those thumb kegs, it kind of defeats the purpose of us ever having to do a stripping run. Because when you do a strip run, essentially what you end up with is what's called feints. And
phase,
feints, F-E-I-N-T-S.
Feints, okay.
Or some people can call them low wines. And it's a higher concentration of alcohol, but there's still a lot of impurities in there. So if we did not have the thumb kegs, we'd have to run multiple stripping runs until we had enough collected to fill the pot again.
Jesus.
Then we'd run it again, and that'd be what's called the finishing run.
Wow.
But because we have those thumb kegs, we can
bypass that whole process.
Yeah. Let's say if we started with no feints or anything to put it into the thumb kegs, we'd do one strip run, and then we'd use that, put that into the thumb kegs, and then we could always continually do finishing runs. So that allows us to make usable product every time we turn the stills on.
That's insane. That's so much more. That's so much less of a hassle.
It's definitely more efficient. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So then it goes from that. Once you've collected that, that's what you guys put straight into the barrel. Do you water it down to proof before it goes into the barrel, or when it comes out?
No. Yeah, we do it before.
Okay. Is that a common thing?
Yeah. Generally, so your hearts, which is what the portion of the still run that ends up in a barrel, will vary in proof, but it'll be up there. Ours generally runs anywhere between 120 to 155, 158 proof, depending on the day. But the
158
regs,
proof.
Yeah,
that is like water.
It does. You can't tell what it is. Yeah.
If you honestly, if I covered this up where you didn't see the line, you would never know that had liquid in it. It doesn't look like it has liquid in it.
No, it's clear.
That's crazy. People, I forget I'm not on camera. I usually do these on camera. I'm holding a bottle of their White Dog at 158 proof.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. That's so funny. That's like corn and fermentation and like it's just so interesting to me. I think it's just such a fascinating spirit.
It is. I mean, a lot of people think it's really complicated science, but it's something people learn, at least the theory of it, take a basic chemistry class in college even.
Yeah. I just don't know how people figured it out. Like I get once you know it, like how to recreate it, but how the hell do people figure out how to do this?
A lot of the stuff that has to do with any fermentation, anything like that is all pretty much an accident.
Really?
Yeah, the distillation itself, that comes back from before even, the Americas were discovered. From what I remember and what I, again, was taught, learned, and read, the first sort of signs of distillation were back in, like, the Egyptian times, and it's what they would make perfumes and colognes for the, the higher classes. And
what a waste.
Well, they started.
They could have been making whiskey.
They could have. At least they started somewhere, and we got to the right path now and making something we can all enjoy.
That's so crazy.
But the science isn't too complicated of it, and actually, that's one of the things I really liked about learning how to do all this was you learn the theory, you learn the science behind it. I was always sort of a geek towards the chemistry and the biology behind it. But then being able to actually do something with that's practical, something you can hold in your hand and not, you just pulled out, any normal chemistry class, you're like, you just pulled out 10 milliliters of so-and-so chemical. And it's like, well, what does that do?
What is that? Yeah.
At this point, you're like, well, you just pulled, 375 milliliters of whiskey. And I'm like, well, I know what that does.
Yeah. That's interesting. So then it goes into the barrel. Do you guys have a flat barrel proof, a barrel entry proof?
Yeah,
or is
our barrel entry proof, we go in roughly 105.
Okay.
We're not.
Is that low, like for standard, or is that high? Like I have no context.
So
frame of context.
The regulations allow you to go up to 125.
Yeah.
We're pretty low for at least most entry proofs that I'm aware of. But we're a cask strength product at the end, so after coming out of the barrel, you're in that 100, even 110 proof point range. We feel like that's a more approachable whiskey to someone, a more approachable bourbon.
I would agree. I think most people, especially with how sweet y'all's stuff is, is like that's the perfect proof.
It is
for you guys.
And just for
I don't know, 119 was pretty fucking good.
I will say one thing, proof goes up and down during the aging process. And anytime we get one that's in the 1-teens, those are always some of the best barrels. That's really a good spot for our mash bill.
I haven't released it, so this podcast will come out before the video that I did the other day because I didn't bring my SD card reader with me. I didn't think I was going to be up here for 2 weeks. I was only supposed to be here for a week, and then the hurricane hit. So for people listening, there's going to be a video that I did coming out soon. It's not a very good video because I was too enthralled with actually what was going on, to be perfectly honest. But we did the age progression tasting, and you had a bottle. So we tried everything. We tried it. The White Dog off the still. We tried it proof down to
the
105. And then we tried it at 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 year.
Yeah.
And then we tried.
We did our double oak.
Can we talk about the?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We tried the double oaked, and then we tried the honey barrel that it's coming out like I think this week once this episode comes out, because this comes out Monday. Coming Monday.
So that's the plan. As long as we get everything together for it.
I'm gonna need one. I know people listen to this that live here. Grab me one. I don't care how many of them I end up with. And I had a point to that. What was the point of that? Oh, the point of that was the 119 that we tried. I have had a ton of y'all's whiskey. I know that is the best bourbon from you guys I've ever had. And that's saying a lot because I've had some of my favorite whiskeys of all time have been from you guys. Mm-hmm. Why was that one so special? If everything is like kind of uniform across the board, the proof point, there's not a ton of elevation in this rick house. So what made that one so special? Was it the age? What was it?
Well, I think there's
Is it just magic?
A lot of it seems like magic. Yeah. Well, for that one, there's a lot of different things that I think contributed to it being so good. First one of them is the age. That one is it's a 6 years in the barrel.
Okay.
As we, any young distillery sort of gets started, you release stuff, younger stuff first, and as you grow as a company, you are able to release older and older barrels.
Sure. I explain that to my friends. I'm like, I don't know how whiskey. I genuinely don't know how you guys stay in business. Because you can't like day one, like there's not like,
no,
you can't just go, all right, unless you source ahead of time and, but then like you're kind of misleading what your your profile is going to be unless you have that mash bill recreated by somebody.
Yeah.
But even then it's not going to be the same.
No, if you want to make your own, bourbon and always bottle your own bourbon, it's a long time commitment, time, money, you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And you better have deep pockets because none of it is cheap.
Like, I can't imagine, like, doing something. Like, I can't imagine, like, I think about this sometimes, like, getting excited, getting everything ready, and then it's like, all right, in 4 years, we're going to get to see how it turned out. Like, that is such a scary prospect.
It is. I mean, and you can't really do
what
anything.
If it sucks?
Yeah.
And you're screwed. Like, what happens then? You're just done.
Yeah, I guess so. I always had faith in our.
And yet, will it exist? I said what I said.
We always had faith in it, so we were never concerned with that. But yeah, so as we're getting, so that was 6-year-old. I think, people always ask what's like the best age for a bourbon, and I think it's really depends on the mash bill, where you're located, where your aging happens. I think for our mash bill, starting at around year 5 and going into year 6, that's when everything starts to really hit peak.
Yeah, from what I've had, I agree with you. I think that's 6, dude. Like, if I know I've told you guys I'm going to do a barrel pick with you guys sooner than later. I really want to try to get something as close to that as I can, because that was it's gonna be really hard for me not to put that at number 1 of the year for me.
That is
it's
a really
unbelievable.
Good one. Yeah, it almost doesn't remind me of any other conviction that we've put out. You really have to...
not really. Yeah, I'm with you on that. It wouldn't shock me if someone said it was you guys, but it wouldn't be like that. Wouldn't be my first thought.
Because I think one of the, if you gave me a couple glasses, filled with different bourbons blind and told me to pick out ours, the first thing I'd look for is ours always has, at least our single barrel standard conviction, has that sort of honey on the open. Sometimes you can really smell it. But this one, it's not that honey sweetness.
No, it's like tobacco-y and some leather to it.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's a lot darker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the age on that one's one of them. The other thing, and this is kind of the sad one of it, is that barrel, the only reason we pulled it out of the rack was because I'm trying to pull samples to taste the barrels to see if they're ready to bottle. I was drilling a hole to take a sample out, and nothing came out of it. And so I covered that hole up, went a little lower, nothing came out of it. Then I decided, well, let me see how heavy this barrel is, and with one arm, we was able to lift it up pretty easily. So I was like, you could hear something sloshing around in there, but it wasn't much. So we pulled it out, and at that point, it was like, whatever's in here, we're just going to put it in bottles. We can sell it in our gift shop. It's really good. We keep it all ourselves, whatever. That was
the second option is what you should do, and I think it's what you guys are going to do. That's the way to do it.
So
that's one you should enter in festivals, man. I know I've told you guys that 1,000 times. That one, the only problem I think you'd have with that is that one is so good, and it is a little off profile for you guys. I think if someone heard of you and like heard about that, or like tried it and somehow got tried it and tried something else, it wouldn't be the same flavor profile. Granted, it'd be just as good, but it would be just. I think it'd just be different. Kind of like Henry McKinnon. Henry McKinnon had like some honey barrels they submitted.
Yeah.
And then it was like they blew the fuck up, and then people try it and they're like, "That's not what I was expecting." And yeah. That's like the bad thing that could come with that is like you could kind of shoot yourself in the foot.
It is, and one of the things as we move into our older barrels and we start making those, what we release is, with time and the aging, the flavor profile is going to change. So we're still sort of figuring out what, how big of a change that's going to be. I do like, at least from what I've tried, that we still have some of the same characteristics, that sort of the sweeter finish with the sort of oak and wood notes that we usually get in our conviction. That's still there in our 6-year and older barrels.
That's awesome.
But yeah, back to that 119 barrel. When we did bottle, there was 10 bottles out of it. 10 bottles and a half bottle of it.
That's got to be so frustrating.
It's a little frustrating,
especially when you taste it. You're like, oh no. By the way, we said it was 119 proof. When we had it, I didn't believe you.
No, it doesn't drink like 119
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, like I think I guessed like what I said, like 101 or something like that. It was so like drinks way under its proof point.
Yeah. So, but
and no one will ever get to taste it. That's so upsetting, except me.
No, that's mean.
And the people that come over into my house, and I'll reluctantly give them this much.
Just
of it.
A little bit of it,
Tiny bit of it.
But there being so little in there, I mean, the color on that is so much darker than anything I've seen come out of here. So I think just that little bit of liquid had so much of the wood compounds to collect and all. And
how long did it sit like that? Did you guys know how long it had been?
No.
Oh, interesting.
It'd been in there for 6 years, and
so you hadn't like checked on it?
That's one barrel I had not checked on. I didn't have any notes on that barrel whatsoever.
Oh, interesting. So like you don't know exactly how long it had been gone.
No. And when you looked at the barrel, anytime we find a barrel that's feels light or anything, I always look to see did it leak? Is there something I can fix and maybe save what's left in it? This barrel looked almost brand new. Like there was nothing wrong with it.
Wow.
So
what?
my assumption is that the loss was mostly evaporative.
Wow.
So and
that's a lot.
Yeah, we lost some water because I looked back and the entry proof on that one was about 102. So it was a little lower than the 105 we tried to aim for, but it was right at 102. So definitely a lot of water got evaporated, and obviously a decent bit of the spirit also.
Maybe the Angels just wanted it. They're like, we know what's up with this
They
one.
may have, yeah.
We know.
They knew it was good.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you. I'm serious, man. Unless something crazy happens, that's probably my number one bottle of the year. Well, out of everything I've had.
It's a good bottle, so
it's amazing. So anyway, where were we in your story? So you guys, I forget where we were in the story.
We'd gone over the sort of the beginning.
Yes.
All that and
So what happened? What was the transition like from the little warehouse you guys had to here? That seems like because you weren't aging anything.
We
right?
weren't aging anything at all. So we moved out here. It was August of 2016.
How long were you guys in that versus like from there to here? How long was that period?
Well, like I said, we were like 2 years at that
2 years
old location. And then let's say 2016 we moved here.
And you've been here 8 now.
Yeah. But once we moved here, it took a couple of months just to sort of get everything settled.
When you moved in, was it like? Did it look like a prison? Like, how much renovation did you guys have to do?
I saw this place before the renovations and after. I mean, it was definitely prison before any renovations happened, and I mean, it's still very
pretty prison-y. Yeah,
yeah.
Were there like bars up and stuff? I mean, I know obviously there's some still around, but like in here, was it just like all bars?
No, this was all just a dorm room here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and we tried to not cut. There's only 2 places that I know of that we cut bars, and one of them's in this room to widen the entryway into each sort of wing of the of this building, and then we cut 1 bar in the production building again just to make room for pallets and move stuff around. So everything was tried to keep as original as possible.
That's so cool.
And the layout works really well. Worked really well for us because
especially with tours, you have like separate rooms. You can kind of start here and kind of go through the whole process, and it's kind of streamlined. Like you start here, you kind of make a circle.
Yeah,
it's cool.
And for us, we everything that's dealing with fermentation stays on one wing, and distillation and everything else stays on the other. So keep everything separate, but still be able to move from one place to the other and do what we need to do.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we moved here. We sort of got settled. That's when we at the old location we only had the 100-gallon still. Moved out here, we got a 330-gallon pot still. So getting that set up, trying to figure out how that one works, took a couple months, and then. January 2017, that's when we started filling barrels.
Interesting. Is there like a, when you're doing like a fermentation class, do they teach you how to operate a still?
Not during the fermentation class. There was one that I took that was sort of distilling.
So it's like a separate thing?
It was a separate thing, yeah.
And is it all kind of the same, or is every still different?
The concepts are the same. The still might run differently. You might need to take different steps to turn it on to get it to, cool, get your condensers going, but pretty generally they're the same.
Okay.
So, I mean, when we started off just using little lab lab distilling kits. It's just all glass.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you kind of start with that, sort of learn, temperature control, all of that, and you can move your way up.
Interesting. It's so fascinating to me. So you guys get here in 2017?
2016.
So 16, you fill your first barrel in 2017.
2017.
Barrel 1 is still here aging?
Still here aging.
So it's 8 years old?
Yep.
7 years old? 8 years? 17, 7 years.
Yeah, it'll be 8 in a couple months.
What are you guys doing with barrel 1? Are there any plans? You going to try to let it go 10?
None of us know what we're doing with that barrel.
Do you check on it, make sure it's not empty like 4, 5, 6 months?
We've checked on it. I haven't checked on it in probably a year or so.
Okay.
But I know Thomas has checked it more recently than that.
Nice.
So it still has plenty in there. So.
Sweet. Good.
Yeah.
That will be a really cool, whenever that releases, I might have to come for that because I think that'd be really cool to have some of barrel 1.
Yeah, I hope to be able to keep a few of those bottles. Yeah, just sort of as the first barrel I ever filled.
That was the first barrel you ever filled too?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You got to be signing bottles.
Oh, I'm sure I will.
That'll be sick.
Yeah.
That'll be cool. Well, cool, man. I don't want to keep you too much. Let's see how long we've been going here. I don't even know. We got the recorder over here. I don't want to keep you too long. Let's see what we got. Oh, we're good. We're at 42 minutes. We're good. Yeah. We're good. I'm trying to think if I had any other questions for you about like the process. You did like a really good job nailing all that stuff down. I don't think I have any other. Well, I guess this is kind of a loaded question, and I know the answer going into this. It's that it's all of the above. But what is the single most important aspect of making bourbon? Is it the distilling? Is it the fermentation? Is it the aging? What is it? If you had to go, we can cut corners on everything else but this. What is the one thing you would like?
It's, in my opinion, it's the distilling part of it.
Okay.
The sitting there, being able to make your cuts and choosing, making the cuts correctly, because you can put anything into a barrel. It's not, doesn't mean it's going to be good. You have to start off with a good product going into the barrel,
sure,
to be able to get even a better product coming out. Because if you put in some, the last cut is called tails. It's just lower proof, really oily. There's some alcohol in there, but it's a lot of oils. You put that in there, it's not going to taste good. It's going to smell terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't make the right cut at the beginning of the hearts, you're going to have some real harsh compounds in there that the barrel won't be able to fix.
How do you know what's the sweet spot? Is it taste? Is it
taste
alcohol?
And smell.
That's taste and smell.
Taste and smell. That's how we make all of our cuts. We don't it's not like, when it reaches this proof, do it or anything. It's all taste and smell.
Interesting.
So we always, we have a flavor profile we're looking for. As long as it tastes and smells, within that profile, it's hearts, it can go in the barrel.
Cool. That is so cool, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I'm glad I got to sit down and chat with you for a little bit.
Anytime.
I appreciate it very, very much. You guys know I love you. I've had to explain to people a few times that like I'm not like not they don't think I'm paid by you guys, because I'm definitely not. But like I've had to explain that like the relationship was a natural thing. It was like I tried your stuff, I bought it, loved it, came here, and just kind of we've become friends over time. And I think it's a really cool thing, and I love what you guys do. You're like the only reason I want to come back to North Carolina is just to come hang out with you guys.
Well, you've been here long enough.
I know. I'm ready to go home, man. But dude, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Keep crushing it, and hopefully, look, another 10 years, maybe we'll get a 20-year conviction.
We'll see. Barrel number 1 might still
barrel
be
number
here.
1 here. Well, cool, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Of course.